Right now, kissing probably sounds romantic to you. Two people lean in, close their eyes, press their mouths together, and something in the chest goes warm. But strip away the music and the candlelight for a second and actually look at what is physically happening, because it is genuinely bizarre. You are taking the wettest, most bacteria-soaked opening on your entire body and mashing it against the wettest, most bacteria-soaked opening on someone else's. And then, if things are going well, you are actively swapping saliva. A single 10-second kiss can transfer around 80 million bacteria from one mouth to another. And we don't just tolerate this, we crave it. We write songs about it. We build entire relationships around the first time we do it. So the real question is, why? Why would a species ever evolve to find swapping spit not just acceptable, but wonderful? And here's the part almost nobody expects. For most of human history, and across huge chunks of the world, plenty of people didn't do it at all. Let's start there, because it demolishes the biggest assumption most of us carry. You probably think kissing is universal, a basic human instinct, like smiling or crying. It isn't. When researchers actually went culture by culture and counted, in one well-known 2015 study, they found that romantic mouth-to-mouth kissing showed up in fewer than half of the world's cultures. Fewer than half. In plenty of societies, leaning in to press your lips against a partner's mouth wasn't seen as romantic at all. It was seen as strange, unhygienic, or even a little disgusting. Some early European explorers described local people reacting to kissing with the exact face you'd make if you watched two strangers lick each other's teeth. So kissing is not some hardwired law of human nature. It is more like a habit, one that some cultures picked up, spread, and turned into the most romantic gesture imaginable, while others quietly looked at it and said, "No thank you," which makes the mystery deeper, not simpler. If it's not universal, then it had to start somewhere. Somebody, at some point, leaned in and did it first. And the trail goes back a lot further than you'd think. For a long time, the oldest clear description of a romantic kiss was thought to come from ancient India, in texts a bit over 3,000 years old. But in 2023, researchers digging back through ancient Mesopotamia, Sumer and Babylon, the world's first cities, found clay tablets describing romantic and sexual kissing that are around 4,500 years old. People pressed into wet clay in one of humanity's first written languages, the fact that lovers kissed. So this urge is old. It was already ordinary when writing itself was brand new, which means to really understand it, we have to go back even further, past the cities, past the tablets, to the animals we came from. Because here's a fact that surprises people. We are not the only species that kisses. Our closest living relatives do it too. Chimpanzees kiss to make up after a fight. A quick press of the lips to smooth things over and rebuild trust after a conflict. And bonobos, the other ape that shares almost all of our DNA, take it much further. They kiss often, enthusiastically, and yes, with tongue. For bonobos, mouth-to-mouth contact is a core part of how they bond, calm each other down, and keep the peace in the group. So kissing, or something very close to it, was probably already in the toolkit of our shared ancestors millions of years before a human ever wrote a love poem. It wasn't invented in a Mesopotamian city. It was inherited from the trees. But that just pushes the question back one more step. Why would any animal start pressing its mouth to another's in the first place? And this is where the theories get strange and, honestly, kind of sweet. The leading idea is called kiss feeding, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Before soft baby food existed, before blenders and jars and little pouches, a mother who wanted to feed her infant something more solid had one option. She chewed it first, softening it in her own mouth, and then passed it, mouth to mouth, directly to her baby. Humans did this for a very long time, and some cultures still do. Now think about what that means. From the very start of life, the press of lips, the exchange between two mouths, was tangled up with warmth, with care, with being fed and kept alive by someone who loved you. Some scientists believe the romantic kiss is a grown-up echo of that the gesture which once meant, "I am keeping you alive," slowly became the gesture that means, "I choose you." The most passionate thing two adults can do may be a memory of being fed as a baby. There's a second theory, and it's happening every time you kiss, even if you have no idea. It's about smell. In a lot of cultures that don't do mouth kissing, there's still an intimate greeting. But instead of pressing lips, people press noses and breathe in. You might have heard it called an Eskimo kiss. Among the Inuit, it's a real gesture of affection, and versions of nose-to-nose sniffing show up across the world. And that's the clue. When you bring your face that close to someone, you are flooded with information you're not even conscious of. Their scent, carried on their skin and breath, is quietly telling your brain about their health, their diet, and even their immune system. Remember from our last video, How humans unconsciously prefer the scent of mates whose immune genes differ from their own. A close-range kiss is the perfect delivery system for exactly that chemistry. Part of what feels like romance is your ancient animal brain leaning in for a sniff test, running a background check on whether this person is a healthy, genetically compatible match. It just wrapped the whole thing in something that feels like magic. And it isn't only smell being exchanged in that moment, it's chemistry, flooding straight into your bloodstream. The second your lips touch, your brain lights up like a control panel. It releases dopamine, the same reward chemical tied to craving and excitement, which is a big reason a good first kiss can feel almost addictive. It releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same one that floods a mother holding her newborn, which quietly glues you to the other person. Meanwhile, the stress hormone cortisol tends to drop, so you actually feel calmer and safer. Your heart speeds up, your pupils widen, your body dumps a cocktail of chemicals that no other simple gesture triggers quite so fast. A kiss is, in the most literal sense, a drug you can only get from another person's face, and your brain is very, very good at wanting more of it. So we've got the deep origins, inherited from apes, echoing how we were fed as babies, secretly sniffing out a mate, and rewarding us with a flood of feel-good chemistry. But how did it go from that to a written custom, a greeting, a ritual? For that, we go to the people who took kissing and turned it into an entire social system, the Romans. The Romans were serious about kissing, so serious that Latin had 3 different words for it, depending on who you were kissing and how much you meant it. There was the osculum, a kiss on the cheek, the everyday greeting you gave a friend or a relative. There was the basium, a warmer kiss on the lips for people you were close to. And then there was the savium, the deep, passionate lover's kiss, the kind you did not give your uncle at a dinner party. Romans kissed constantly, greeting each other, sealing friendships, showing respect and rank, to the point where kissing was woven into the machinery of daily public life. But even the Romans learned the dark side of all that mouth-to-mouth contact, because a kiss is also a perfect way to pass along whatever is living in your mouth. At one point, a nasty disease was spreading through Rome, carried mouth to mouth through all that enthusiastic greeting, and the Emperor Tiberius reportedly tried to ban kissing in the city to stop it. Think about that. A Roman emperor, commander of legions, looked at his own people and issued an order against kissing, the way a modern government might issue a health warning. It almost certainly didn't work. Telling humans to stop kissing has never really worked, but it's a 2,000-year-old reminder of something we sometimes forget in the romance of it all. Every kiss is also a tiny act of trust, an open door between two bodies. The cold sore virus, herpes, spreads this way. So does the illness we still literally nickname the kissing disease. When you kiss someone, on some level your immune system is shaking hands with theirs, and most of the time, we decide the risk is worth it. Kissing didn't stop being useful once Rome fell either. It just kept picking up new jobs. In medieval Europe, a kiss became a kind of signature, a physical seal on a serious promise. When important agreements were made, they could be sealed with a literal kiss to make them binding. And this is where a small piece of everyday life you still use comes from. That little X people put at the end of a message to mean a kiss? One common story traces it back to those medieval seals. People who couldn't write would mark a document with an X, then kiss the mark to swear they meant it. The X and the kiss fused into the same symbol. So every time you sign off a text with a row of little X's, you are, in a faint way, repeating a gesture that once made a promise legally real. The kiss has been a greeting, a blessing, a signature, and a weapon of betrayal. There's a reason the most famous betrayal in Western history was delivered as a kiss. So let's pull the whole strange story together. Kissing is not a universal human law. Fewer than half the world's cultures ever did it romantically, and to some people it looked frankly gross. It is genuinely ancient, written into clay 4,500 years ago, and inherited from apes who were kissing to make peace long before that. Its deepest roots may reach back to the most tender thing imaginable, a parent chewing food and passing it mouth to mouth to keep a baby alive. Layered on top of that is a hidden sniff test, your animal brain leaning close to read a partner's scent and immune system, all disguised as romance. And the moment it happens, your brain rewards you with a flood of dopamine and oxytocin so powerful it can feel like a drug. Then human culture took that raw impulse and gave it 100 jobs. A Roman greeting, an emperor's forbidden act, a medieval signature, a symbol at the end of a letter. And when you see all of that at once, The ordinary kiss starts to look like one of the most loaded gestures we have because none of the people doing it knew any of this. The Mesopotamian lovers didn't know about oxytocin. The mother kiss-feeding her child wasn't thinking about the future of romance. The Roman giving a friend an osculum had never heard of an immune system. They were all just following a feeling, a warm, magnetic pull toward another person's face that none of them could fully explain. And that pull runs so deep and reaches back so far that it survived everything. It outlasted empires, crossed oceans, dodged bans, and shrugged off disease, all to end up in the completely normal, completely strange thing you might do tonight without a second thought. So the next time you lean in and kiss someone, remember what you're actually doing. You are performing a ritual older than cities, inherited from creatures in the trees, wired into the deepest parts of your brain. A 4,000-year-old habit dressed up as a spur-of-the-moment feeling. You're not really inventing a moment. You're joining a line of humans and animals, stretching back further than we can see, all leaning in for the same strange, wonderful reason they never needed to name. If you want more of the hidden history buried inside your most ordinary habits, the real reasons behind the things you do every single day without ever once wondering why, then subscribe, because Primal Inc. puts out a new one every week. After all, the weirdest story on Earth has always been the story of how we became the way we are.